years, and actually about 40 before it was all over. And so cars were my life. And in particular, I was involved with component design with General Motors and some of the component divisions of General Motors, where we, in particular, designed the climate control systems and the automotive air conditioning systems and the engine cooling systems for cars around the world. Now, mostly General Motors, but it's a global business, so that anybody who wanted to buy the stuff, we were happy to sell it to them. So as a result of that, back when I was still a chief engineer at General Motors, I was asked in 2000, actually I believe 1999, to go out on behalf of General Motors and start a first team in the Niagara Falls, Buffalo, New York area, which is where the division of General Motors that I was working with was located. And we did that, and that team is still alive and well 11, 12 years later, so I'm pleased that that's happened. Of course, in year one, we found a school that wanted to play, what was called Newfane High School, a little rural community north of Buffalo with about 600 students in the high school, tiny little farming community. And we went to work. Of course, none of us knew anything about what we were doing, which is certainly understandable. And I had the benefit, though, of having General Motors behind us, and we had the benefit of having a couple of school mentors who were technology teachers at the school who were committed and remain committed to this day, as a matter of fact, even though they're both retired. Okay, that's how first could suck you in, I guess. You know, once you get in, you never stop in many cases. And then we had the benefit of having other engineers that worked in our division, as well as skilled tradespeople who worked in our division, who could work as mentors with the students. So relative to many situations, we were really blessed, I guess you might say that, because we had a lot of resources available to us. However, in spite of that, in year one, we really just muddled through, you know, and we really didn't get started in organizing until roughly late November, I think it was, when the season starts for first, of course, FRC starts in January, first weekend of January. So ideally, you would get started, get organized, get your act together earlier than that, as you probably well know. But we were late, and of course, we didn't have any real other teams that were close to us to help us along or anything of that nature. So off we go, okay? And of course, one of the many lessons we learned, I'll talk to it in the 6 slides I have here, is that you need to understand the specifications, and you need to abide by the specifications, and one of those, of course, is the weight limits. And we didn't know that the first year, and so we get down to the last week before we got to ship the robot, and what do you think happened? We got the robot all together for the first time, getting ready to maybe run it, and what do you think happened? Overweight. Yeah, we were just a little overweight. We were like 20 pounds overweight. You know. Does that sound familiar? So one of the absolutely must specifications, as you know, is the overweight situation, or the weight situation. And I mean, to this day, I will never forget, nor will the students who were involved forget the panic and the chaos that 20 pounds overweight 5 days before the ship date caused. What we learned from that, of course, it's a learning experience, is that, of course, you need somebody who serves as the 800-pound gorilla to each and every day watch over what the weight is, and every subsystem and system needs to have a weight target that they understand isn't just something that they try to achieve, but that they will achieve, okay? And this is all part of the engineering learning experience, which is so important. At any rate, the learning went on as we went to some of our first regionals, and then we were fortunate enough to be able to go to the national competitions, which in the early years were at Epcot, which was absolutely great. I mean, believe it's never been as good since, as far as I can see. That's another story. But we were fortunate enough to be able to go to Epcot and there interact with teams that ultimately went on to be national champions. And one of the teams that we, my wife in particular, got close to early on at Epcot was Team 71. Now, certain teams whose numbers get to be legendary, and of course Team 71 is one of them. Do any of you potentially relate to team number 71 and where they're from? No? Well, they're from northern Indiana, Hammond, Indiana. And they're Team Hammond is what they're called. And they have been multiple times world champions. And naturally, we want to know, how'd you do that, right? How'd you do that? And let me preface all this by saying, the first experience is not all about winning, because anybody who participates in the first experience, just by having the experience, I contend will be a winner. That's really, they're going to win no matter what, just by doing it and learning about what it takes to create something, take an idea and make it go to reality, and then run it and compete with it and so on. Everybody wins. However, there is then the actual competition and the winning of competition. And although winning the other way is okay, let me assure you, most people think that winning the competition is even better, okay? But it's not all about that kind of winning. It's just doing the thing. That's the learning experience, is the real winning. But nevertheless, it's great to win. So in dealing with teams like Team 71, we sidle up to them and we watch them closely. Some people call this benchmarking, right? We watched them, Team 71 closely, and talked with them, and they were just terrific people, of course, and learn about how they do it. And because not only did they come to the competition once and come away as national champions, at the time it was just national, okay, but they came, I forget now, maybe 3 or 4 times, and perennially, I think as recently as this year, I think they were in the finals, okay, where was it, St. Louis this year, okay. So it was great. How'd you do that? How'd you do that? And what I want to talk to here today is the overview of what we learned and what the roadmap that you might want to keep with you and use as you start your experience this year to get from start to winning, okay? By the way, again, I don't have a hard copy of this, but if anybody wants to get copies of this 6 slides to use in the future, you can just use Dan Black at Cox.net, and I'll send you the slides. Dan Black at Cox.net. So with that introduction, what we're here today is to say, okay, we didn't learn this all ourselves. We learned this from watching the best and emulating them, and it was apparently successful because it took our team to the national Final Four in only a couple years after we got started, okay? So kind of philosophically, as you can see here, you know, if you don't get started right, it's impossible to end up right. So how do you need to get started? Those first few days after the game is laid out, I'm saying the first 3 or 4 days, are the most crucial days, as you'll find out here, that there are, okay? can't, because what you do then lays the groundwork, as long as you have the discipline as a team to execute that for the other 6 weeks. Will have everything to do with whether or not you're going to get to as successful an endpoint as you'd like to think you would on day one. So Alice says, would you please tell me which way I should go? And the cat said, that depends on where you want to get to. And she says, I don't much care. And then it doesn't matter which way you go. So before we get on to slide 3, I'd like to just go to slide 2 here and have you count off and let you do some thinking with your thinking caps on about what are some of the key mileposts that would be necessary to think about from the start. Start meaning the game has been laid out and you now know what it is, to ship date. What are some of the key things that need to happen procedurally, sequentially, to get from here to there? And then after that, we can discuss what we learned and what we've documented here by virtue of watching Team 71, Team Hammond. One other thing, by the way, about Team Hammond, I'll ask you this in the form of a question. You know, first of all, how many of you are seasoned team people? How many years?
3.
3, okay. How many are new? You're pretty new.
Second year.
Second year?
New.
New, brand new, brand new, brand new. Okay, a lot of rookies here, okay. Well, I'm glad you came to this, okay, because this is exactly what you can use. I was gratified, by the way, last year, I was asked to do this kind of thing, and one lady, after the season was over, said, you know, and she had not a rookie team, it was a new team. She says, you know, we actually did what you said. And you know what? We won. A couple of regionals, I think, as a matter of fact. So for the new people, this is especially what's for you. What I'd like you to do here, though, before we talk about what the best of the best do and how they go down the road, put your thinking caps on here, like this gentleman in the orange cap here, and just count off by 1 and 2, and we'll just randomly divide you into 2 groups. You can spend 10 minutes sketching down a few thoughts about key things that need to happen to get you from start to a successful finish. And then one of you can talk to that chart, and then we'll talk about chart 3 and chart 4 and what, I won't say the answers are, but what the successful teams do. Yeah. So you're a 1, 2. 2. Okay. Okay, that makes you a 1 and a 2 and a 1.
1.
Okay.
2.
1.
2. 1.
2. 1.
Okay, so if you remember what you were, the 1s, please come over here, kind of make a marker, get somebody who's write legibly, and just brainstorm a moment or two, a few minutes, about some of the key things that will determine whether you get to the goal line as winners or whether you get to the goal line 6 weeks later and wish you'd done different things.